City Hudson to order August 20th, 2019. So we will discuss any action on meeting minutes of August 6th.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. No public hearings today, correct?
Correct.
No unfinished business at this point, so we'll move right into new business. A, discussion, possible action on a preliminary plat for St. Croix County Tax Parcel 236-207-1-00000 and 236-207-1-01000 Hearth Development LLC.
Obviously, this has been a item that we've reviewed in quite a bit of detail over the past few months. This is the next step of that process in that we get to a point where we're starting to talk about grading, utilities, roads, the more technical aspects of the proposed development itself. Obviously, the most important thing here is to make sure that it is consistent with the approved preliminary master development plan, which it is. You'll see some preliminary grading, you'll see utility locations, you'll see also a memo from SEH, our consulting engineer, in terms of some modifications and general comments that we would like or that will need to be addressed prior to final plat consideration. Again, 43 single-family lots. The two apartment buildings at 3 stories, 110 units each, and the 5 commercial lots. Staff recommends approval with conditions. I know the applicant's here to answer any questions, or if the commission has any questions for staff.
There you go. You're
Sorry?
nothing.
Give her a chance, give her a chance.
Any questions?
I have none.
I have none.
If they're in conformance and everything's good, I move to approve with the conditions the city is asking of them to go to the next step.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Seconded. Any further discussion on it? We can wait a couple seconds, Mary Claire, if you had any questions for that.
I'm good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Nick, shut the clock off.
Quarter hour, right?
Good job.
5B, discussion possible action on the concept development plans for tripod condos at 502 3rd Street, the Tripod, Hudson LLC.
Thank you. This application is obviously pertaining to the old funeral home across the street here on 3rd Street, the corner of Walnut and 3rd. You'll see that there is a narrative provided by the architect in terms of what they're looking at architecturally, their statement pertaining to the downtown design review. The building itself, 3 stories in the front being the corner of 3rd and Walnut. It transitions back to a single story where the proposed garage facilities would be. It would be a 3-unit condo, residential condo building. Basically stacked on top of each other. It's an interesting story. It's a family that is retiring. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. Moving back to the city, and they all want to live in the same building together for the next several years. So that's where it's at. Obviously, there's going to be probably some discussion and conversation about architecture, things like that. If there's concerns, thoughts, general comments, I'm happy to entertain those. Staff does recommend approval. With that, I'll turn it over to the...
There is no commercial at all.
Correct.
Any questions or concerns?
Well, I want to make a couple comments. I'm Fred Yorg, I live on that block. I took the liberty of showing the plans to the neighbors. One of them is in attendance, Mr. Bolte, who is right to the east. I did it intentionally to show them what they were looking at, and I'm going to say the general response was positive. I commend them for their efforts at keeping the elevations low at the back to give and protect them views for the people behind them or to the east or uphill, however I should say that. Number two, I commend them for positioning the building to the north side of the lot, which is where it least obstructs and keeps the site path, you know, down the street open as much as possible. I mean, they could do it differently. So I'm gonna say, I mean, I don't like everything, I mean, but I think you've done a very good job on the layout of the building and the positioning and the way you've done the structures. I think it's very nice. Maybe Jeff has some comments, being a neighbor here, but I think you've done a nice job. But I do have one question. It would be on the water. You have a pretty big footprint there. All the houses around that neighborhood have water in the basements if they're older houses, mine included. And where is all the water going on this property? Where are you going to channel it off the roofs and everything else? I mean, I'm just curious because you don't have a lot of green space.
Brian, state your name and address.
Sure, it's Brian Hines, Studio EA, 76 Cooley Road. I'm the architect on the project. In response to where the water is going, we actually have more green space than what they currently have on the site. Okay. So we've increased that. We're not taking any water onto the neighbor's property, which is also what's currently happening right now. And so we do need to resolve with city staff if we're tying our downspouts into the storm sewer, or if we're going to try and do a rain garden and put them onto the site. Okay. The driveway is a little bit tricky on the alley because, as you know, from that side, right, we're really in a high spot as we come off of Walnut and then come down the alley all the way down the street. So our driveway is sloped towards the alley at this point, and so there will be some runoff that goes to the alley. But other than that, we'll work with city staff in terms of the downspouts and interior roof drains.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Claire.
I appreciate, that Fred said about in terms of the height and so forth. I struggle a little bit with how it fits in the context of the neighborhood.
Sure.
Because this is a very different, much more modern-looking building than across from City Hall and across from the neighbors and all of that. So that, I struggle with that because it doesn't, how it fits in the context of the neighborhood.
Yeah. So what we tried to do with the architecture to fit in the context of the neighborhood is to use similar materials that are on some of the buildings. The stone that we're selecting for the building should be a stone that is compatible to what City Hall is. We're also using lap siding as we transition to the back of the building to the residential, single-family residential neighborhood. So we'll be using earth tone colors similar to other homes in the neighborhood. And really we're trying to do it through materials. The historical requirements also mandate that we have a certain percentage of glass on the building, and we've put the majority of that on the front, as you would have on some of the downtown commercial buildings. So I think we have a building that fits a little better commercially on 3rd Street, and then really fits a little bit better residentially towards the back of the building, towards the east.
I share Mary Claire's comment on that. I didn't want to take the floor here in my comments, but it's a modern-looking building. It's beautiful. I mean, you can't say it isn't. Yeah. However, when you look at our Andrew Carnegie Library, you look at our City Hall, you even look at our fire station that's relatively new, how they tried to mimic the architecture of the city when they did that. I share Mary Claire's concern if there would be any way to make it look, I realize what you're saying on materials. Right. It's the architecture, it's the design, it's not the materials. It's your building is more like the Crone building down on 1st Street, beautiful building, but modern, ultra modern. Right. And so I think what's being said here, is there any way you could make it look more vintage? More older than it is, just by design? I don't know, correct me if I'm out of line here, Mary Claire, but that's what I want to say on that.
Okay.
My question would be though, Fred, how is that fair to them, as we have granted other permits for the Crone building, if you want to
No,
say?
it isn't fair, and they, with asking for no variances and all that, they comply completely.
Right.
And so I understand all that, I do. But I'm just,
I guess I could turn the
The
question
que-
to
the-
Mary Claire too.
the question was asked, so I commented.
Well, I mean, this is the part where we ask questions, when you bring
Yes,
the concept
absolutely.
forward. So I mean, this is the
Yeah.
part where we ask questions. And that's part of our role is what to do and to look at it as an overall, how does it fit within the context of the neighborhood?
Right. I think a way to think about some of it, well, first of all, the client is looking for a more contemporary building. And I think when you put as much glass as we've put, it addresses the intersection, it fronts the intersection, and that's a nice thing. And I think it also sort of activates the intersection. So when you have that much glass and you have their public spaces, like their balconies, their decks, their living areas on the front of the building like that, that's a nice architecture, that's a good contribution to downtown. And, you know, we don't know what's coming from the fire station, but I think it does kind of connect that little bit of residential to the downtown neighborhoods, and I think that'll be a nice addition, even though it may be done in a more current way
Right.
than to replicate an old building.
It's a beautiful building, I mean, I'm not, hey,
Yeah.
it's a pretty girl, let me just say it to you that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're not telling you your kid's ugly.
Thanks, Pat.
Any further discussion? Did you have anything to say as far as the neighborhood? Yes, if you wanted to speak to it, here's your chance. State your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Jeffrey Lee Bolte. I live at 315 Walnut Street in Hudson, Wisconsin, directly across from the Bach and Young Funeral Home. Personally, I don't have any problem with what they've got going over there. I think it's a beautiful building, be a great addition to the neighborhood, I think. And I guess I had one question about the garbage collection, but maybe that's completely out of line here, if that would be by dumpster like the funeral home had, or if it would be individual containers like a regular residential household does, but I don't know if anybody could address that.
I think Brian would be able to.
be carts like a residential household.
Okay. Well, welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Any other further discussion? Any questions or other concerns? Seeing none,
I will move to approve.
I'll second it.
With all city conditions, if there are any. I guess I can't remember if there were any, but.
seconded by Pat. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. 5C, discussion possible action on downtown design review for Hudson Library sign package, Hudson Area Public Library. Mike,
Thank you, Randy.
Tiffany.
I'll speak on this one. So the library is working on redefining what occurs at the library, and they're looking to do that through this sign package of 6 external window graphics. Each of the graphics is going to have its own little message of what occurs there, such as like using computers to look for job applications or after-school programs, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to that, they are also looking to add like smaller bubbles to the side of these larger like redefinition bubbles, thanking local organizations for providing funding to their programs. Otherwise, the rest of the building facade isn't being changed in any way, so staff is recommending approval of the sign package.
Tiffany, I have a question
Yeah.
regarding, maybe Mike can answer as well. I know we have businesses along Second Street and other places that use similar type of signing in their windows, and they are threatened, for lack of a better term, they are given letters to remove how is this different from that? And if it is, then everybody should be afforded the same luxury of being able to put these kind of signs in their windows for events, special holidays, without being given a letter of discontinue.
Sure. I think we're trying to set the tone moving forward as to how we handle the temporary signage issue, especially downtown. Not everybody, but there's obviously businesses that want to promote whatever activity or goods that they're, selling. I think it makes sense to have the process so that we don't run into a situation where maybe something that's temporary or intended to be temporary goes longer than not needed, or something that's permanent, at least we understand that it's a permanent treatment, right? It's a process thing, and I think also the city and our department needs to move, at least be active, working with, the chamber and other organizations so that the business community is aware that, hey, we do have this process. So if you want to do something, we're not opposed to it, but at least bring it to our attention so that we can.
But to me, we're
Review
giving
and discuss.
them, go ahead, do what you want.
Sure.
But then we're not doing it for the rest of our businesses downtown.
Okay.
Not right.
I think we need to handle it the same for everybody.
Correct. I agree.
So that would be our intent here.
But then that really if everyone does signage like this in their windows, that changes the whole character of what the downtown looks like. So it's kind of what I call sign noise, if you have signs everywhere and all of that, because I know there were some businesses that were called upon to take down some of their neon and some of their signage that they have, and when I first looked at this, it looked exactly like what that business was asked to take down. So I have concerns about doing this depending on what the precedent is, as you said, moving forward from here.
Sure.
And are we giving everyone permission to do whatever they want? And then who's going to manage that? And then it does really go back to the design standards and what are our standards in the downtown district.
And part of it is administrative. There's a burden to, trying to keep track of who's putting a sticker on their window, and it is hard to administer. You don't see everything,
Was this passed through the Downtown Design Review Committee?
No. You are that.
We are that. Sorry. We as a group
commission.
are that. So, I think I am concerned that we're opening a door that we're not going to be able to manage moving forward.
Is the suggestion that potentially we move towards a situation where window decals or stickers or signage is something that would be otherwise discouraged or should be discouraged?
Well, but I think there's a difference between a little window decal and something that,
Granted.
like, as big as this. So, I think, we don't want to micromanage because businesses should have an opportunity to, I don't know. What do you think, Frank?
I understand your concern. And what are you creating, and is it going to create additional issues?
I agree with Randy's comments. It has to be the same for everybody. You can't have two standards, otherwise it's really not a rule. What about a temporary basis type sign? In other words, 30 days and it's down. Is that something that is doable, livable with everybody, or is that?
It's expensive to put the sign up and take it down.
That's why I'm asking the
So,
question.
that would be an expense to the businesses, and then if they're like, I'm not going to spend the money if I can only have it up for 30 days, and then I have to take it back down, and I think it's an administrative issue of who's going to keep track of, George put his sign up on August 1st, I got to be sure by September 1st he has it down. I think that,
Right.
It's more of overall issue of what do we want it to look like.
We have to have parameters, but at the same time, we want free enterprise. We want these businesses to succeed within a parameter.
In lack of any design standards or anything different right now, I don't see how we can treat the library any different than we've already treated past businesses.
Right.
Then, if we want to have a separate criteria that allows some kind of signing, then that would be a whole separate issue that we would pass as a design standard, and from that point forward, we'd operate under that. But I think it's only fair to the existing businesses that we have to treat
I agree.
this in the same context as we've treated
But
those.
those other businesses have been asked to take down what they put up.
And we're saying no, I'm saying no to the library putting
Okay.
up.
You say no to this
I say
proposal.
no to the library doing it.
No to this,
Because it
yes.
is not in compliance with what we, in the way that we have treated
Other
businesses to
business-
date.
Thank you.
Then, if this body, as part of our comprehensive plan, wants to do some sort of design criteria or
Right.
look criteria, covenants, so to speak, of how it's to look, then we can do that and address issues like the building that we're having now and other types of things like that. Then it's changing what we have as a ground
Right.
to work from. But for now, I can't support the library being treated differently than the other businesses.
Well, then to propel your statement, then Mike, what do we need to do to bring that issue in front of us to have it changed, looked at, reviewed, whatever is the right choice of words here? What do we do?
I think that the committee needs to call their meeting, the chair will have to call a meeting and bring it to a head.
Well, we have to have what we have now in existing, what we have existing, because I know you can rent permit, put signs up for what, a week?
Temporary signage? Yeah,
for
we
$10
have
fee.
temporary signage allowances,
So
yep.
we need to look at that, and we need to look at what we have for standards and move forward.
And
Put it
take
on
it-
another agenda.
And take an inventory of what's sitting out there right now that,
Well, what I meant by that is if we deny somebody and we're doing nothing, then we don't look very good. If we deny it and saying we're reviewing the entire policy, that's a whole different answer.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say, I'd recommend that we just postpone and then let us get a better idea of what we have, what the current situation is out there in terms of signage like this, and then maybe come up with some policy recommendations.
Well, I would counter with you. I would like to see us take the action on this, and they can come back after we do our homework.
Okay.
And put it back on a plan commission. So we would have a motion to deny this, and then have another motion that we take it up. As far as,
You mean deny versus just postpone?
correct.
Mike, if Plan Commission denies it, doesn't it move on from Plan Commission to the next committee, though?
Oh, you're right.
No, because the downtown design review is still with the plan commission.
I will make a motion to deny their request at this point and have it internally
With
come
further,
up
yeah, with further research to be done.
with
on
further
the policy.
research to be addressed at a future date.
Second.
Any further discussion? Anything you guys want that they need to know to bring back to us?
I don't know anything about it. Mary Claire's the expert
Policy.
on that.
Well, no, I mean, I think the challenge is you want businesses to succeed and be able to promote and market and do, all they do, but yet you want to have some parameters about, what that looks like, so it's fair for all across the board, right?
So bring the existing at our next meeting, plan commission meeting,
Existing.
so we have materials to read.
Examples and then
Yeah.
what's on the streets right now and.
I mean, photos, this really helped me to kind of visualize what it would look like.
Are we clear as mud? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we'll hold that over then. Let's start, well, we won't hold it over, we'll do it a little different. 5D, discussion possible action on final development plans for Hudson Hospital, EMS garage at 2800 Center Drive, Hudson Memorial Hospital, Inc.
So in front of you, you will see the final development plans for the Hudson Hospital's EMS garage expansion. Some of the updates from the concept plans include some additional tree plantings, enlarged parking space sizes, trash enclosures, and a note of assisting the city to locate the existing utility stubs on site. Staff is recommending approval of these final development plans with the listed conditions.
Any questions or concerns? make a motion?
Move to approve with staff recommendations.
All right, seconded by Frank. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Number 6, communication items for future agenda.
May I bring up the issue I brought up last time again, because there was an article in the St. Paul paper the other day that I mentioned to a few people here earlier about how rental properties are being taken off the market, leases being canceled, and they're converting them to Airbnbs because they can make more money on them. St. Paul, City of St. Paul has an ordinance on the subject. They've defined what a hotel is, and they defined all these other things because they had to do it, because otherwise people are claiming this, they're claiming that, they're claiming. So you gotta have a lobby, you gotta have a manager on duty, some other things to be a hotel, otherwise you're something else. The point of it actually tags along with my comments that we're making our bed and breakfasts. We're making other people come before us and get approval and licenses, and these other people are basically doing it off the books. They're making money and doing it a different way, which, back to Mary Claire's statement, isn't fair to the people that have complied with everything the city has asked for. I realize it's a tough issue because these people typically only advertise on the internet and stuff, but I think it also addresses another issue of, let's call it low-cost rentals or apartments. The incentive is out there today for a property owner to yank his rental off the market and turn it to an Airbnb because he can make more money on it.
I don't want to interrupt your...
Well, I'm done. Now you can interrupt me.
It's not on our agenda, but we will put it on. You want to talk about Airbnb permits?
Something.
What you're looking for?
Something, yes.
For our next meeting?
To be comparable to what we do with the bed and breakfast, whatever it is we do with them.
Okay.
I think it's only fair. And I think there's more of them around town than we realize. It's not fair to the hotels. It's not fair to anybody.
I know, but we can't talk about it. It's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay.
You're getting far into it, too far into it.
Okay, I apologize. But,
No.
I didn't hear it last time, so.
Well, there.
so I feel pretty strong on that, I guess is all I'm saying, is I think it's an issue we need to address from many reasons. Let's just say it that way.
Any further agenda items for next time? Seeing none.
I move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I didn't get a second on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Didn't see it.
Thank you, everybody.